Can you believe it? One of the most twisted individuals in history, a man who partook in cannibalistic rituals and owned a box containing 15 severed human trophies, is walking free today. He isn't a character in a horror movie. He is a member of the Ripper Crew, a gang that brought Chicago to its knees in the 80s. The story of the Satanic Chapel you're about to hear will make you lock your doors and windows twice tonight. The story of the Chicago Ripper Crew. In the early 1980s, the city of Chicago was plagued by a nightmarish series of horrific serial murders. After being chosen at random, the victims were kidnapped, mutilated, often murdered, and then dumped in various locations around the city. What you are about to hear is extremely disturbing and is certainly not for the faint of heart. This is the story of the Ripper Crew. The first victims. On May 23, 1981, 28-year-old Linda Sutton was declared missing by her deeply concerned relatives. Just 10 days later, her mutilated corpse was found in a field in the Chicago suburb of Clarendon Hills, Villa Park. Whoever had killed her had taken the time to slice off her left breast as a trophy of their grisly endeavor. The following year, during the early morning of May 15, 1982, Lorraine Borowski was opening her real estate office when she was snatched right off the street. 5 months later, her body was found lying on top of a grave in a Clarendon Hills cemetery, also with the left breast removed. 2 weeks later, a woman by the name of Shui Mak was abducted from Hanover Park. When her body was found 4 months later, police were forced to accept that they had a serial killer on their hands when they discovered that the same gruesome amputation had been performed. The survivor angel. York. Just a few weeks later, the killer struck again, dragging a young woman named Angel York into his van before handcuffing her. Miraculously, Angel was not murdered, but she suffered horrific injuries when the killer slashed at her left breast with a knife before tossing her out of the moving van. Angel was in the hospital when she was interviewed by the Chicago police detectives assigned to the murders. It was then that she told them something truly chilling. The killer wasn't just some lone maniac targeting vulnerable females. He was being assisted by up to 3 additional accomplices. Continuing Horror's Angel was able to provide detailed descriptions of each of the suspects, but while detectives were scouring the profiles of known criminals, the crew was able to kill again. On August 28, 1982, the body of Sandra Delaware was discovered on the bank of the Chicago River. She had been strangled and stabbed to death, and just like the other victims, her left breast was amputated. This was followed by the discovery of 31-year-old Rose Davis's body on September 8th. She had suffered identical injuries to the other victims, with the same signature amputation having been performed. The break in the case. There wasn't a break in the investigation until December 6, 1982, when a woman named Beverly Washington was found lying unconscious by a railroad track. She had multiple stab wounds, and her left breast had been cut off, but somehow she was still alive. Once she regained consciousness, she was able to give highly detailed descriptions, not just of the suspects, but also of the vehicle they were using to abduct their victims. The van was traced to a man named Robin Gecht, referred to as David Gecht in some accounts, who was promptly arrested on suspicion of murder. Police believed they would be able to collate sufficient evidence to convict him during his initial period of detention. Yet to their frustration, they fell short and were forced to release Gecht after just a few days. Following his release, detectives worked night and day to compile more evidence. Gecht's undoing finally came in the form of a motel receipt. Police were able to track down the motel's owner, who gave lengthy testimony detailing Gecht's stay at his establishment. He had rented 3 adjoining rooms with 2 friends of his, holding a loud, raucous party late into the night. But that wasn't all. The detectives were deeply unsettled to hear that the motel owner believed Gecht to be involved in some type of cult. The Satanic Chapel After hearing that Gecht was the main suspect in a murder case, the motel owner provided police with the names of his friends, Edward Spreitzer, and two brothers named Andrew and Thomas Kokoralais. After the police picked up Thomas Kokoralais, they forced him to confess that he and the others had taken women back to Gecht's motel room and explained how Gecht himself referred to the motel as a Satanic Chapel. It was there that they drove their kidnapped victims after snatching them off the street. Although the motel owner had heard loud music coming from the men's rooms, it was merely a way of drowning out the women's screams as they were beaten, violated, murdered, and mutilated. Thomas Kokoralais claimed that Robin Gecht was the one responsible for the breast amputations. After removing them from his deceased victims, Gecht would slice off pieces of the amputated breast before eating them raw, telling the others it was a kind of satanic ritual that they should also partake in. Following this, he would place the severed breasts in a sealed box. Thomas Kokoralais claimed to have personally witnessed the contents of this box and asserted that there were no less than 15 severed breasts in it. He also claimed that Gecht would engage in necrophilia with the bodies of his victims. Sentencing the monsters, Gecht was clearly a maniac, but he was also highly intelligent and managed to conceal enough evidence that it was impossible to directly charge him with murder. Instead, he was charged with attempted murder, aggravated kidnapping, and deviant sexual assault for the attack on Beverly, Washington, and was convicted in 1983. Before sentencing him to 120 years in prison, Judge Francis J. Mann told Gecht, "Not even an animal would do these things. Only a devil or a monster would." Next came the trials of Gecht's three accomplices, starting with Edward Spreitzer in 1984. Spreitzer admitted that on October 6, 1982, the gang shot 28-year-old Rafael Tirado and his friend Alberto Rosario at a phone booth in a random drive-by shooting. According to Spreitzer, he was driving Gecht's van with Gecht in the passenger seat when he was ordered to slow down. Gecht then took two guns from a rear seat, told Spreitzer to stop the van, and opened fire. Rosario survived, but tragically Tirado succumbed to his wounds. In a bid to avoid the death penalty, Spreitzer pleaded guilty to the murders of 4 victims. He was eventually sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. In 1985, it was Andrew Kokoralais' turn to be convicted of murder-assault and aggravated kidnapping. Although his defense argued he was a follower and not an organizer, Andrew was eventually sentenced to death for the murder of Lorraine Borowski. On the day he was due to be executed, Andrew declined a last meal. His final words were, "To the Borowski family, I am truly sorry for your loss. I mean this sincerely." He then recited a verse from the Bible, "Repent ye, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand." The release of Thomas Kokoralais. As a reward for his detailed confession, Thomas Kokoralais also managed to avoid the death penalty. At the time of his arrest, he was a painter with no criminal record. With an IQ of 75, he was described as having a borderline range of intellect and was said to be motivated more by fear than by perverted desire. Thomas pleaded guilty to Borowski's murder in exchange for a 70-year jail sentence. However, due to good behavior and sentencing laws at the time, he was released from prison on March 29, 2019. As of June 30, 2019, Thomas resides in Aurora, Illinois. In an interview with a local news station, he begged the public to change their perception of him, stating, "Everybody thinks I'm a monster, but I'm not a monster." Despite his pleas, it is perfectly reasonable to view Thomas Kokoralais as a predatory monster. He was a willing participant in some of the most heinous murders Chicago has ever known. He was well aware that Robin Gecht was practicing cannibalism and necrophilia in the name of Satan, and he did nothing to stop it. His moral grandstanding means nothing when he allowed innocent women to be subjected to the most despicable treatment imaginable. Conclusion: the legacy of the Ripper crew is the stuff of nightmares, something that none of us are likely to forget. But unlike similar cases, there is no comfort to be taken in knowing that the perpetrators are all behind bars or 6 feet under. That is because a member of one of the world's most horrific gangs is free to walk among us, having caused untold agony, taken the lives of the innocent, and potentially having tasted human flesh. Reflection and lessons beyond the nightmare. While the details of the Ripper crew's crimes are deeply disturbing, examining this case provides critical lessons that remain relevant today.